This is
Hello,
Mr.
hello
British. They,
everybody.
them.
How are you?
Hello. How are you? Are you actually British?
Yes.
Wow. All right. I'll be in the UK next week. I'm excited.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, I
So,
want
what's
to
your call
also
about?
say, well, I saw the title of your show, and the title of your show said, "Does God promote patriarchy?" Is that right?
I think so. You know what?
Is
I
that
haven't
right?
even looked at what the title of the show is. Our producer picked it. So,
Well,
or one of our producers.
I thought it was a catchy title. So,
Cool.
do you
Yeah.
both believe in God?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, I think to understand the intricacies of whether God proposes a patriarchy, you'd have to understand understand God, right? But I
Sure.
had a
You'd have
specific.
to claim to know something
I
about it. But you
enjoyed.
had a specific question. You have a specific question in the
I
notes, and
did.
that's
I
what I'm
did,
really
and
interested to hear.
it was. I was. I wanted to echo one of your previous,
Uh-oh.
and
Oh, there you
I
are.
what's that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out just for a second.
Can you hear? Yeah, I'm also a feminist, and I like, the promotion of women's rights, equality, etc. I'm a bit taken aback by, obviously, you said something about me coming on and the call might not go well. I hope it's
Oh,
going well so
I'm
far.
making it. It's going totally fine as long as we're being respectful and engaging honestly. The comments, I don't know if you're watching the live stream, but the comments, I don't know, maybe you've called in before. They were a little apprehensive. But I've never talked to you before, so you got a clean slate.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
want to get to your question that you actually brought up because I think this is an interesting topic. So your question, did you want to
Yeah,
say it or I
it
can
is
read the
an
notes?
interesting topic. I think that there should be equality or equal representation across the board, right? Men, women, and now we have obviously non-binary, transgender. It should be equal all across the board, right? Would you agree with that?
Depending on it depends on what you're saying exactly, but um
So
I
let's
want
just
people to
say
have choice. But
let's take a profession at random, lawyers, right? There should be equality in the workplace in terms of representation of the different genders. Would you agree with that?
that would be there should be equality as far as um opportunity and as far as choice. So if women want to be lawyers, they should have just as many opportunities to do so as men. But I I think you're already going to start with a leading question, so I'm more interested in like let's get straight to your question because I think it's a great jumping off point.
Yeah. So my question, well, the question I wrote was how many bricklayers are women?
Right, which is really low. It's like 2.5 or 2.7%. Um, and if we talk about construction in general, it's wild. Like there's a massive discrepancy. I think it's like 10% or less are women
Why do
in
you think that
construction.
is? Why do you
I
think
don't have to
why do you
think about
think
it. I can tell you what the data says actually. So, um,
what does the data
41
show?
41% of women that have gone into construction have received harassment of some sort, inappropriate comments, as opposed to their male counterparts who did not receive that significant of a number. And then 70 something percent of them were discriminated against based on them being women. So, number one, you have a workplace environment that is not friendly toward women. So that makes women not want to go do that, understandably so. The women that do get into
Yeah,
construction say that they absolutely love working construction, that the part that they don't like is when they're having to deal with men who treat them a certain way based on the fact that they're women. Here's the other issue. Historically, this has been a job that's been only for men. And so you have a lot of families where the men go on, and it's kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for, where it goes on from dad and son, and it's talked about. So then that creates a culture where women associate this job with men, and they don't even think about the idea of them pursuing this as a career. So we also see them having less opportunities to pursue this career as far as scholarships go, and as far as education opportunities. So there's a lot of different things
my
in general.
specific,
And in fact, I'm almost done. And I'm almost done. So the other issue is that we're all very aware of this being a problem. And so there are organizations that have been started. There are feminists actively working to kind of break down some of these issues. And because of that, I think the number has increased, at least over here in the United States, a little bit as far as how many women are now in construction, which is really cool. I think bricklaying is super cool. I've been helping my partner do some concrete work, and I made these little like concrete tiles, and it's amazing. But I can't imagine having to do that and bending over and being hot out in the sun and then hearing comments made to me by my fellow coworkers. So I understand why that might not be a great environment for women right now. We are working to make that less of a thing. So anyways.
I also was giggling before because the fact that you had that number come to your mind right away. I was like, you've had this conversation before, clearly. I was like, wow.
I've had this conversation before.
That?
I have had this conversation.
Continue. Sorry,
Construction is it's a big umbrella term. That's why I use in my question bricklaying, right?
Right, because bricklaying is actually a very small, like that's hard to find people that do bricklaying at all. So yeah, you can even take that. I do know there are some studies specifically about female bricklayers though, and I think it was more than 41% received inappropriate comments from men in the workplace. So that's another issue specific to bricklaying.
Yeah, but obviously that argument can be extended to any profession, where law, engineering, etc. The thing is, the elephant in the room is this: it's not about, you can be an independent, self-employed bricklayer, right? Can you not? Is that the case?
I guess I don't know a lot about bricklaying. It also over here, I'm sure you could be.
Let me tell you about bricklaying. You get one brick, you slap some,
Are you a bricklayer?
Earth on it, and then you put another brick on it. It's not rocket science.
I actually think there's a lot more to it. I know people that work in construction, and even the way the bricks are made.
If you let me finish, there is an art to bricklaying, of course. It is a skilled job, but that you can, go and do a qualification and then practice as a self-employed bricklayer. But I don't understand why women are not entering this profession. Is it because
I just gave you a list of a lot of reasons.
It's not as well paid enough? No,
I just gave you a list of a lot of reasons. Well, I didn't read them off.
You've just given a load of statistics.
Right, which are going to be better than any opinions I can give you.
The elephant in the room. Okay, let me give you another.
Tell me the elephant in the room. You started that sentence like 4 times. What's the elephant in the room?
Let me give you another element that people are.
Are you Googling something right now? Because we're here waiting on the conversation.
I think you guys talk about dumpsters, dump trucks. Have you ever seen a woman, hauling junk into a dumpster?
Yeah, I have. I was just doing it the other day. Yes.
No, I think a dump truck.
Are you talking about as a profession?
We call it a rubber.
We
call it a
garbage truck.
Yes, because there was a woman that worked on my street back when I lived in Atlanta.
I'm trying to explain it in American English.
Yeah,
sure.
But that's also this is all anecdotal. This is all anecdotal. If I lived on a block where there wasn't a woman who was working on the garbage trucks, that doesn't mean that there aren't women who do that job. I've seen them, but I don't.
I'm saying why are there women not entering these professions like bricklaying or, garbage truck
Because the
hauling
workplace
garbage, etc.?
environment, multiple reasons. If you actually want to listen, I'm giving you answers. Multiple reasons. Number one, the workplace environment generally is shitty for women when it comes to harassment and discrimination, which are two things that nobody wants to deal with in the workplace, no matter who you are. The second reason is because of lack of opportunities. We have seen that there is a disproportionate amount of opportunities given to men versus women in these situations. Oftentimes, that's what leads to there being more men. I think the biggest thing is the social cultural story and narrative around a lot of these jobs. Women don't think of themselves as being a part of this part of the world because of the stigma
I
surrounding
completely
these jobs,
agree.
because of, right, and that is an issue.
I
That's what we're
completely agree.
working to resolve.
So let me ask you the follow-up question. Do you think we should enact legislation to allow more women into these specific professions and protect them, give them extra protection, just so it increases and augments equality in these specific professions? Do you think we should enact legislation?
So it's about having the opportunity. These women are allowed to take those jobs if they want them. If they want them, they can have them. So we don't need to like make any legislation for that because there's no law against a woman doing those jobs. And in regards to
No,
wanting
but
them
let's
to
say,
be
for example,
protected, if we
high-level
want them to be
CEO boardroom, etc. There are specific rules or quotas or positive discrimination that goes on in these high-level, high executive level jobs. Do you think the
so
same should be
what
done
you're
in the lower
describing,
tier?
there's a difference between opportunities and just and preventing discrimination. Like you're giving people the option to be at choice, to have the choices to join whatever jobs they want to, apply to whatever jobs they want to, and at the same time you need to be able to ensure that those people are not going to be discriminated against in the application process or when they have those jobs. And if the men are not being discriminated against, why should the women have to be discriminated against? And if that means there has to be legislation in place for us to be treated equally in that regard, then like I get,
Well,
then there should be some
Which
legislation.
generally
really
is
clear.
already in place.
Let me
So
get
that's
something
what we're
really clear. If
advocating
you're a
for.
Wall Street trader, right, are you telling me in a that there isn't harassment that takes place in the workplace in Wall Street? Of course there is, and no one is condoning this kind of behavior. What I'm saying is there should be equality across the board. Women should be fighting for these rights. Like, look, we can bricklay, we can lay bricks, we
Why?
can,
Why? So why do
operate
you care
garbage
more?
trucks.
Why do you care more about the outcome being equal? Like, oh, there should be 50% should be women bricklayers and 50% men. Why do you care about more about that than you do about the equality or
Because
the equity of
numbers
women being
matter.
able to decide if they want to or not? Why do you want to force people to do something they don't?
Okay,
If a woman doesn't want to be a bricklayer, she shouldn't. And if more men want to, then let them do that. What is the problem there? What we're advocating for is the women that do
yeah,
want to go into bricklaying, which I just read about a bunch of them that want to, they should be able to do so without being discriminated against and without being sexually harassed.
well, let me go back to the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is this.
You never
It's
got to
about
it, so I
going
would
for the
love to get
sexy,
to it.
high-paying jobs. Well, if you let me finish, the elephant in the room is this. The non-arduous, non-laborious jobs, such as bricklaying and hauling garbage into a garbage truck. The thing is, it's very easy to go for high-paying, high-flying jobs and say, look, there's no equality. There should be some uniformity across the board in all jobs, right? There should be. It's about seeing the difference. It's not only about the opportunity, it's about seeing equal representation, right?
Are you telling me that you're upset that more
boardroom,
women are deciding they want to go be scientists and lawyers than bricklayers? Is that your complaint right now?
I'm not upset. I'm not upset. I'm just saying that the arguments in favor of women being equally, in inverted commas, represented in a FTSE 100 or a new,
So what about all? So
a
what
New
about
York
all the
Stock
jobs
Exchange
where? Do you
boardroom.
believe in equality across the board for men as well? Because what about all the jobs where you see majority women? Should we see more males as
Such
labor
as,
and delivery nurses? Should we require that 50% of them be men?
such as
I just listed it.
I'm sorry, I haven't proposed that it should be 50%, because I also said there are non-binary transgender. There should be
Great. So whatever proposal you
as
have for
equally
bricklayers.
representative.
Okay, so do you think there should be equal
What's that, sorry?
representation? Do you think there should be equal representation of men in jobs where we see primarily women taking on those roles? For example, when it comes to
Yeah,
childcare
yeah.
jobs. So you think we should see more men as labor and
Yeah,
delivery nurses, and we should put
absolutely.
something into place to force men to go have these jobs that they're clearly not advocating to have?
It's not forcing anyone. Sorry, you're putting
How do you
something
propose?
completely.
So how do you propose
You're putting
that
words
we?
into my mouth. I haven't said anything
How do
about
you
forcing anyone.
propose? I can mute you if you want to listen to what I have to say. How do you propose that we get more women to become bricklayers? Because I can tell you how we do that, but I would like to hear your solution. How do we get more women to become bricklayers?
Well, first off, it would start off by applying for jobs that are bricklaying jobs, or
I just asked you a
advertising,
question and
or
you're not answering it.
providing opportunities.
How do you get women to want to become bricklayers?
I have answered. I am answering the question. You're not liking my answer.
Because you said
That's the
you said
difference.
apply. So are you going to force
If you
them
do
to
not
apply for the jobs?
job, you're using the word
But a woman
force.
should.
No one is forcing
Because.
anyone.
So do you
If
think
you want to
women
stay
are
How are you
wanting
going
unemployed,
to
to
get people to
apply?
apply?
I'm going to mute you real quick. So here's my question for you. Do you think, and then I'll unmute you, do you think women are actively wanting to be bricklayers and they're not applying? Yes or no? Oh, you're unmuted. So yes or
Well,
no? Do women
let me
want
answer
to
the
be
question.
do women want to be bricklayers and they're just not applying for the job?
Let me answer the question. There is a high unemployment rate across the UK, the
That's
USA,
a yes or no question. So
etc.
you can answer me or we can end the call because you're not answering what I'm actually asking you.
If you want to end the call because I haven't answered a yes and no question, and you're not liking my argument about equal representation of,
You
the
haven't
different
made an
genders across the
argument yet
board,
because you're not
and
answering my
you're
question.
putting words into my mouth saying I'm going to force the genders. Well, that's
I
not
asked you if
engaging
that's
in
your
intellectual
solution.
discussion. I'm
Cool.
sorry.
Here's your last chance to
Answering
answer a yes or
question.
no question. Do you think that women want to be bricklayers and they're just not applying for the job? Yes or no?
Look, I am going to answer the question that deserves.
Okay. I muted him. Do you want to continue this conversation? I don't think he's actually going to give us any answers because I feel like we answered it from the very first moment when I said, these are why women aren't taking these jobs. Are you cool if I drop the call?
Yeah.
I think if they want to call back another time and answer the question, but when I say it's a yes or no question, and then your response is look, and then you say I'm going to answer the question, then I'm done. So, anyways, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like we answered the question.
Yeah, it's also tough because I like that there's so much room for that to be a really interesting and productive conversation, but it just felt like it was like just going in circles. And then what really was kind of the icing on the cake was to be like, well, if you want to have an intellectual discussion, excuse me?
Right. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
you haven't answered any of the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was getting to be a little
when
tedious.
when you start with a leading question of how many women are bricklayers, then you clearly have an agenda to what you're saying, which I would have rather you start with the agenda, which is I think what they were trying to say, which this is what I was trying to get at some solid answers so I don't have to put words in their mouth. But I think they were trying to say, like, should women be required to apply for certain jobs? Something along those lines. They had a broader question that had nothing to do with bricklaying in particular, and they chose that as their leading question. Anyways, that was exciting.
Yeah, it was all it was all just that same root thing that we hear people who are misogynists as like saying that, well, you want equality, but there are no women who want to do these jobs. Who's going to do them if the men aren't
Right.
here? Excuse
Well,
me?
and exact. And the bricklayer, literally, that specific question of the bricklayer thing, that is a talking point for,
Mm.
I don't know what to call it, I guess anti feminists, although I love that they introduce themselves as a feminist.
Yeah,
Um,
so
but it is
interesting.
a talking point that comes with an agenda that shows me that that person was not thinking for themselves and using their own argument, which is probably why we didn't get actual unique answers and responses. Because if you want to be honest and engage in conversation with us, I feel like you and I are extra patient. We let people go on, we have conversations, and we could have carried on with that
Mhm.
conversation with some honest answers. And I wouldn't have been trying to hurry the conversation along. But